All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of All Things Money on Dawn. Today, we have a very special guest. We're going back to our roots of really identifying issues and figuring out what even is happening there. So, we've got Dr. Mohammad Babar Chohan here, who is the author of a book, The Politics of Road Economy. What is the name of the book, Dr. Sir?
The
Let's just talk
Politics
about
of
it.
Road Expansion, Debunking Misled Economic Growth Narratives.
So the politics of road expansion, and Doc Saab. So yeah, let's just talk about it. What pushed you to write this book? Let's talk about start with that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ammar, for having me in this session. And I think that you are right that this is an important topic. What pushed me to initiate research on this important, long-held belief, that roads expansion automatically bring economic growth. I was reading a nice book by Barakman. Barakman co-authored with Bannister also in 2001 by Routledge, Transport Investment and Economic Growth. So they were, when I read the book, I found them confused while connecting the relation between roads investment, transport investment in general with economic growth. They had multiple kind of arguments starting from different political, economic, social variables. And then kind of coming to the conclusion that it is a catch-22 situation when you connect roads with economic growth. And ultimately, they even thought of decoupling the relation between the two notions. So that was the gap actually in the literature. And that was a big issue faced by the world today. Every country wants development. Every country wants, some kind of infrastructure development because it is a long-held belief that unless you develop infrastructure, there is no development, there is no economic growth. So that is a brief background of the research when I started it in 2010 in New Zealand. Now, gradually the research moved on and I kept on, going through various methodological and conceptual frameworks, how to address this issue. And I think that that was the most challenging, part of the book, because initially I undertook two case studies only. Right now, the book has case studies from all continents of the world, except Antarctica, obviously. So all the six continents, we have from New Zealand, Mackay's to Pika Pika Expressway. That was part of big roading infrastructure investment in New Zealand. Then London Orbital Motorway, every one of us know. Most of us have gone to London. You have seen, despite massive investment, there is still lots of traffic congestion and the issue is not resolved. Then we have in Houston Interstate Highway 610, which was specifically chosen because it was also a policy assertions on the part of the United States government. And these were the three cases from Global North. And accordingly, I took up three cases from Global South. Reason was that when Bannister and Barakman carried out their research, they actually took up the case of developed countries only, and that was a big gap. So from the Global South countries, the first country I took was obviously my country, Pakistan, Lahore Ring Road, how it was advanced and what kind of policy assertions carried out in forcibly connecting this major roading investment with economic growth. And then Mario Covas Ring Road in Brazil. It is a major roading infrastructure, and it is also being built on the same argument of promoting economic growth and improved connectivity. And the third case from Global South I took up from Africa, the Nairobi Expressway. Now, these are the six cases, and one thing was common that in the Global North, these countries have devised such processes, such procedures where everything is legal. Public is consulted extensively. The procedures are followed. A rule of law is there. But when it comes to securing government funds, they have, devised mechanisms which apparently are fair, which apparently you will not see any issue with the processes, but deep inside, the strategic issues where the common person is being exploited, they are very much there because you are basically securing government funds. You need to have environmental licensing, for example. Within that environmental licenses, you need to have extensive public consultation. How, when you advance a road, how the local fauna and flora, for example, will be affected. And within those processes, the public voices were not adequately heard. In the case of Mackay's to Pika Pika expressway in New Zealand, for example, the people were displaced. There were lots of removal of trees, and there were so many major topographical changes, obviously. But in the process, NZTA said that NZTA stands for New Zealand Transport Agency. They said that we have consulted people extensively. Everybody was on board. We devised those themes, those areas, which were later followed in the planning. But actually, it was policy assertions by the national government, the National Party of New Zealand, led by the then Prime Minister John Key. So, if you look at even the corruption profile of New Zealand, it is one of the you would say it's at the top. There is no corruption. Processes are fair, and the policies they make are, you cannot raise any kind of issue on that. But my point is that we found that these were the issues which were noted in the first case study from Global North. Then I took up another case study. It was a United Kingdom, which was obviously a London orbital motorway M25. Basically, the story of M25 was almost the same because what happened that after the Second World War, General Edmund, he wanted static warfare, and he just constructed some kind of anti-tank structures, which were later converted into the London orbital motorway. And the same policy assertions were there, and same trend was noted in the United States in case of the Houston Interstate Highway 610. So this was the first set of arguments that were noted in the Global North. Same was the case in Global South countries. We had a poor policy, poor processes, poor public consultation, poor environmental consultation mechanisms, and the same. The point was that both groups of countries from the Global North and Global South, they had an increased focus on expanding roads obviously for securing funds and for in the name of economic growth and development. There was an interesting conceptual framework which I found while carrying out the literature review, and that was I started from the basics. I said, what is the basic? How could we establish a fundamental relation between roads investment and economic growth? Let's go to the basics. Instead of going into highly quantitative economic models, I simply opened Aristotle's book. I just started reading Aristotelian philosophy, and he said that knowledge, basically, it has got three main components. One is episteme, which means epistemology, which is, invariable and context-dependent virtue. Epistemology is scientific knowledge. Second was techne or technology. Technology, it is variable and context-dependent. But the third virtue of Aristotle was very interesting, and that was phronesis. Phronesis is basically practical wisdom, common sense, which is missing actually in our policies. And that was the turning point. I would say that I was convinced that basically what is happening is that powerful people or powerful elite or the politicians around the world, they are ignoring the negative implications of road expansion all over the world just to secure government funds and for their political benefits. They are expanding roads. So This was, was my conceptual and analytical framework, methodological framework that I followed. And for that purpose, uh, phonetic planning research of the Professor Ben Fleberg from Oxford University, he had given methodological and conceptual guidelines through the phonetic planning framework. And here, Mr. Ammar, it is kind of challenging the entire, set of arguments or long-held beliefs that capital or investment in roading infrastructure will bring economic growth. This is a neoclassical assumption. Look, if you look into the quantitative methods, what they do is basically you create certain conditions, you make a model, you under certain conditions, and you apply it. But human values, emotions, human practices, ethos, values, I mean, our informal issues, which are otherwise cannot be measured through statistical models, they remain unaddressed. And that is the sore point, and that is the core point, rather, which is preventing roads from contributing meaningfully to the economic growth. So, in a in a theoretical perspective, these 6 case studies ultimately contribute a bit more towards the concepts and the arguments raised in the degrowth and post-growth theories, although those theories are more applicable to the developed countries, and developing countries also want to develop because they are lacking infrastructure, they are lacking roads, hospitals, I mean, the basic facilities. But the issue is that politicians, powerful elite, policymakers, planners, what they are doing is instead of kickstarting right roading projects or right infrastructure projects, they are picking and choosing the projects of their choosing. For example, in the United States, it's a developed country. Abbe Zindler was a famous mayor of Houston, and Ari Bob Smith, his name was in 1957, Fortune magazine's the 76 wealthiest people. These two people became wealthy because of Interstate Highway 610 in the United States. So had it to anything with the economic growth, United States, I mean, obviously it is a big country and an vast economy. Their economic growth took place because of multiple other factors. It was not just a roading project. But in case of Pakistan, for example, Lahore Ring Road, who is the actual beneficiary? The car owners. I mean, even the motorbikes are not allowed on Lahore Ring Road. It is a car-friendly road. It is a road for the privileged. It is a road for the powerful. Our political elite, they are living in the southern part of the Lahore. The design of the road was changed 6 or 7 times. Its route was changed time and again. Why it was so? It was so because powerful people did not want the road, I mean, to go against their interests. And the phases of DHA, if you look at that, I mean, data shows that DHA influence the decision-making processes. FWO was the beneficiary. I mean, this is what the data is saying. It is not, I mean, this is not my opinion. This is a data. Similarly, the different chief ministers' policy directives, they were highly misled. I mean, be careful of the politicians who say that build a road in next, for example, if a road can be completed in 2 years, they say, I am going to complete it in 6 months. It's a misleading statement. It is, I think, this is a kind of narrative that has nothing to do with the actual economic growth that should take place for the people. So, Mr. Amar, I would say that, I mean, this kind of practices, they're going on all over the world. And particularly when we have climate-related challenges, this kind of policy approach is not only ignorant, but also misleading in the sense that you are telling the people that we are grabbing money from your taxes, people's taxes. We are going to invest in a project for which there is no evidence of economic growth. There is no evidence of development. The same principle applies to other infrastructure projects. mega projects. For example, you have bridges, you have hospitals, you have other projects. So this is how this is a very very kind of brief kind of introduction about the book.
Thank you, Dr. Barber, for an extremely detailed narrative. I fully agree with you. In fact, a lot of work that's been done by Professor Bent Flyberg essentially just says a lot of infrastructure development does not really live up to the potential outcomes that are envisaged when those projects are conceived, just because of the sheer delays. I think he
Yeah,
mentions dams and nuclear power plant and IT projects as the
yeah,
topmost. It's a sheer waste because by the time those projects are done, either the technology has changed or the outcome that you were conceiving, they just don't exist anymore because the world has moved on by the time you would actually completed the project. Coming back to roads, you rightly pointed out in terms of politicians and everyone else making promises. So a few months back, I was doing an exercise looking at budgetary numbers of infrastructure development done by various provinces in Pakistan, and up over the last 10 years, and about 50 to 60% of the budget, I don't know the recall the exact number right now, was essentially allocated towards roads.
yeah,
And as someone who lives in Karachi, roads are in a horrible condition day in, day out.
yeah,
And I think it just basically becomes a perpetual income stream where you make a road, the road goes bad in 1 year, you make that road again, and there is no follow up on that. There are no quality standards, as you rightfully said. There is no right building or fixing those things. Rather than we just keep throwing money at the problem,
yeah,
and that becomes a nice funnel through which taxpayer money is
yeah,
essentially siphoned off to, let's say, vested interests, whoever that may be.
yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Basically, the people in the power, they find it, quite easy to, just present a road and justify it on the basis of economic growth, unless you tell the people that the investment that we are making, it is going to bring a profit. It will not be justifiable. And for the nations to grow, you have to give the arguments of economic growth. It has become rather a compulsion for
So,
the
Dr.
politician.
Baba, if I may, apologies for
Yeah,
interjecting here, just to add to your argument.
yeah,
When you say, it needs to add to economic growth, a lot of arguments that can come or the potential response that can come are, listen, your access to market improves. So if you're
yeah,
making a road in rural region, your access to market improves. No one's going to quantify it, but the sheer saying of active access to market that leads to a lot of things. In the case of motorways in Pakistan, I'm just appalled by the sheer amount of money that is spent on developing motorway infrastructure, which, by the way, is not used by the logistics sector.
yeah,
And still use the old highways because they're like, why should we pay the toll anyway?
yeah,
And it's basically the car owners who are essentially using those roads.
yeah.
So, my question is, have you ever considered or done some kind of an assessment or evaluation study, let's say in Pakistan, of a motorway, something? These kind of benefits were envisaged at that point in time. This is what's happening right now.
Mm,
What are the outcomes? What were the costs involved? What are the potential outcomes? Does it really make sense?
yeah.
Or what could have been a counterfactual, right? Does maybe a railway infrastructure makes more sense in that case rather than road infrastructure? How do we start having this conversation?
That's a very, very good question, Mr. Amar. And actually, you have hit the core. I mean, the book does not argue that roads should not be built. Roads should be built, but the policy mechanisms and the processes should not be, assertive in nature. They have to be research based. For example, there could be certain roads where greater connectivity could increase industrial productivity. We have to follow the bottom up approach rather than following the top down approach. What happens? Somebody, for example, some country's top policymaker or in the government, he says, I want to build a road. But basically, he will definitely be some kind of politician or some powerful elite. He should not assert it. Initiation of road is actually the most critical part. I believe, uh, I believe that if we could introduce certain changes in the policy making and policy procedures, policy processes, where we could empower affected stakeholders in the decision making process, we can build better roads. Second thing, we need to learn lessons from the similar roads built in the past anywhere in the world. For example, if Pakistan wants to build motorways, some motorway has to have some kind of lesson to be learned from similar processes, similar projects in the past from other countries, or follow collective wisdom by extensively consulting the stakeholders in the policy making process. So I think that these factors will definitely improve and will result in aggrandizing economic growth or kickstarting new vistas of economic growth.
That's wonderful, Dr. Sab. So let's just create a simulation here.
Yeah,
Let's say we're in Pakistan right now. We know tons of money is effectively wasted on road infrastructure.
yeah,
Motorways are a massive waste. I mean, someone can convince me otherwise, but I do not. I mean, as you said earlier, connectivity to industrial regions would lead to higher productivity, but
yeah,
that really doesn't happen because, as we have seen, a lot of the motorway infrastructure is
yeah,
not connected to industrial centers. It's just
yeah,
like ideally it should have started from the port upwards. It's essentially coming from north to south, and still the last 300 or 400 miles is still
yeah,
not there.
yeah,
So the industrial productivity angle was just never there.
yeah,
So let's say we have a counterfactual. We just say tomorrow onwards or the 1st of June onwards, we're going to fix all of our mistakes. We're going to learn from the past. And
yeah,
that includes urban roads, or let's say roads that exist in our neighborhoods, in our communities, because Karachi is a mess and a half,
yeah,
or how to make an underpass or a bridge, or where to make one. So let's start with urban. How
yeah.
do we fix urban roads such that they don't really go bad every 6 months, every 12 months? What would be the framework for that? I think one thing that you beautifully said was you need to involve the community.
Yeah.
You need to involve the stakeholders, but does the vision of all stakeholders align? That's another question at an urban level. And then we can talk about national connectivity, trade connectivity. What makes more sense? Does a railway network make more sense? Do a number of highways make more sense? A two-lane highway makes more sense. A six-lane motorway makes more sense. If we are given an opportunity to fix the road infrastructure network and optimize the same over the next, let's say, 15 to 20 years, how would you go about it?
Well, Mr. Amar, you have, I think, two or three major questions in your comment. I mean, first question, which I understand, is that how to take stakeholders on board effectively so that we could have collective decision making by empowering them. Look, taking the case of Lahore Ring Road, when I was going through data, the stakeholders didn't were not meaningfully consulted because the venue of a public hearing, far off places. I mean, what we do is that the bureaucratic procedures, we just have a checklist. Okay, we consulted 10 stakeholders, 15 stakeholders, and they're all on books. Practically, nobody wants to put hard work in such a, laborious kind of job because it's not an easy job to, I mean, people in Pakistan, for some reason, or in global South countries in general, they avoid processes. But in the West, this is not the case, although they are a bit better, but still they have their own issues. Having said this, I would say that collective wisdom or the arguments coming from the bottom, they are basically necessity based. Literature shows that they are necessity based, they are natural, and they are assertion free. When you come to address a natural issue, for example, you want to, there is some bridge due to which, two cities are not able to have their fleet moved, I mean, from one part to the other. And if they build a bridge, that makes a sense. But if there is no city around and you make a bridge, it just doesn't make any sense. So my point is that we have to have a proper policy mechanism. I mean, at the legal front, at the economic front, at the social front, rules are there, but they have to be robust enough that without taking stakeholders on board, the next stage should not come. And now it is the time of artificial intelligence. It's the time of IT, and you can just make an automated system where all stakeholders, their data can be recorded. I mean, gone are the days when we would make a public consultation on papers. We can develop a robust system. We can ask the Ministry of IT to develop this system. What will happen is that you will record the views of the stakeholders. You will first of all prepare a questionnaire on a particular roading project or other infrastructure project. That questionnaire will be prepared as per the themes that link road investment with the infrastructure investment with economic growth. And within those themes, you will ask the questions from the affected stakeholders, and they will come up with their feedback. And that feedback has to be again drafted in a way or molded in a way that they fall within those specific themes. And if those themes are supportive of the argument that this road is beneficial for the economy of the country and for the people, it should go on. If not, it should be, done away with. Why policy assertions? Politicians, their job is to do politics. The powerful elite, their job is to, they should focus on their specific areas where they are. But asserting in the policy making and advancement of roads is just, I think, not their job. And I think that they are just protecting their interests. So this was the first comment. Second thing, whether multi-modal kind of transport is good or not, I would say yes. Look, no, if you have good train network, railways network, that is very good. You have alternative modes. But again, the point is that what kind of guidance we are getting. We need to have guidance from the federal government that should naturally come to the provincial governments and then at the local level. And the book also addresses this issue, that there is an absence of guidance from the federal government in transport policy making. Can you believe that till 2018, and even today, there is actually no transport policy in the country. The transport policy that was into 2018, that was made, if I'm right, that is also not very robust. I several years ago interviewed some officials in Islamabad who were preparing this kind of report, policies. But I think that the main issue is that unless we have proper policy mechanism and guidance from the national government, it would be difficult to come to a logical conclusion that could relate road investment with economic growth and obviously multi-modal transport systems.
This
Thank you.
makes sense. So, again, coming back to my original question. So, we're talking about infrastructure development here. The typical conventional notion that goes is you build a road and people will come. And the political economy of it all essentially means wherever roads are made, land prices increase. So, a lot of the incentive behind making a road is essentially to enable increase in land prices in adjoining areas.
Yeah.
How do you capture this? How do you capture this nuance through data, through evidence, and how can such a thing be avoided in future?
Well,
Everyone wants
again,
to see the thing here is if even in stakeholder, when you do a stakeholder consultation, everyone would say, yeah, make a road. I would love it because if you make a road, my land price will increase. So the vested interest of the community would actually be for a certain thing to be made because the land price will increase. But maybe at a macro level, at a budget level, at a taxpayer level, that project may not make sense because that may not drive that kind of growth that we envisage. How do you tackle this problem?
well, the landowners or the land speculators were the main beneficiaries of many roading projects all over the world, even in United States, even in United Kingdom. Pakistan, obviously, as I said earlier, that DHA is a big beneficiary. Now, how to handle this issue? First of all, let's first look into the chemistry of stakeholders. Stakeholders are not only those people who have lands along the road. They are economic stakeholders. They are social stakeholders, they are environmental stakeholders, they are spatial stakeholders, they are political stakeholders, they are policy stakeholders, they are planning stakeholders. There is a whole, long array of stakeholders. Now, when you seek their comments, their feedback in policy processes, they have their own comments, and you put those comments in the storylines, in the themes, and then you devise policies. So you are right. I mean, for example, as I said, DHA. I mean, there are many other big housing societies in the south of Lahore, uh, which were obviously benefited because of the construction of Lahore Ring Road, for example. And in the motorways case also, I mean, if you Lahore to Islamabad motorway, it's if you look into its planning, its design and route were also changed just to include some lands of some politicians. It is very much on record. So I think that these kind of assertions, they are preventing developing countries from making development, despite spending huge amount from government exchequer, from public taxes into these projects, and still having no results. And ultimately the economic growth and its aggrandizing economic growth remains a dream.
So yeah, essentially, again, when we just doubling down on your question, on your answer here, when as the number of stakeholders increases, the decision making time may also increase, and there would be a lot of lack of consensus as well. We've seen this time and again in various projects where one thing leads to another, and this also happens in a lot of land acquisition issues, where land acquisition probably takes more time than actual building of the road. So there again, there's a lot of consensus and political economy related issues here as well, where some stakeholders may actually not have the best interest of the project or the area in their mind as well, and they would basically be stretching the project to get a more private benefit. How does one ensure, or if you have seen any examples, how does one ensure more quicker decision making, more quicker consensus by or while also having all stakeholders on board?
Well, you're right. I mean, there can be multiple stakeholders in a project, but here the argument is not to get consensus from all of them. Some of them would naturally disagree. For example, if you have a question that you put forward, and you say that, well, you have to give your feedback on that, and out of 10 stakeholders, if 7 stakeholders are in favor, 3 are against, and even 6 are in favor, 4 against, that should be acceptable. I mean, the collective wisdom should prevail. So I think these disagreements, this is the beauty of stakeholder consultation. You will have people with different policy interests, different procedural interests, and hearing their voices is itself a kind of promoting a culture where people are empowered through policy making, and bringing them down to such level of minute decision making where you discuss the processes with them. And this is the only way. This way, what happens is actually, as per the Aristotelian philosophy, as I said, phronesis, what happens is that you bring practical wisdom in the decision making process. Why I mention it? Because we have to understand why we are going for these kind of stakeholder consultation. Look, policy assertion is the worst thing that you can do in any mega project. Policy assertion will kill that project. And even if you make it, it will become a white elephant. This is, we have to understand, for the time being, public may start appreciating the politicians that they made nice infrastructure projects, but ultimately in the long run, their productivity, their usage, their contribution to economy, their overall productivity, I think that it will not contribute meaningfully towards development and towards economic growth. And that is the way. Look, Lahore Ring Road Northern Loop was completed in 2012, and Southern Loop, it was all set to complete in 2024, although they are some work is still going on. But my point is, what kind of you can see what are the economic implications. Do we see lots of economic growth around Lahore? Well, I don't see that. So that is the point, that where has the public money gone? Needed better decision making, Mr. Amar.
So I think I fully agree with you there. I'm fully with you on that. The if you do an evaluation of how taxpayer funded projects are doing in terms of road infrastructure, a lot of those actually have also been built through borrowed money as well in
Yeah,
dollars with a lot of foreign currency exposure. The economic output
yeah,
associated with that would be much lower. I'm sure. So I hope someone actually works on this and does a lot more detailed study.
yeah,
But you don't really see it. Motorway is a classic example where, again, it hasn't really led to a lot more trade or, as you say, more productivity increase, so on and so forth. If anything, you're just using more fuel at this point and your energy intensity is actually reduced.
yeah.
So that really is a thing. So, yeah. All right. So, Dr. Saab, how do we go? Okay, just one more thing.
Yeah.
Where in your research, you've done tremendous research on this. Is there a country or an economy or a province, city out there that you think is can be deemed as some kind of a role model, not the best, but some place that can be mimicked, that can be looked up to while we develop a transportation policy, while we move on, completely revamping the way we think about roads? What would that place be?
Right. Look, when we talk about the link between roading infrastructure and economic growth, it has to be project specific rather than a country specific. There is a nice technique developed by Ben Fleber long ago. It is called reference class forecasting. This is a very nice technique. What Professor Fleber argues is that if you want a project to be successful within budget, within time, and I mean, you want to make maximize its productivity, you need to build this project on the lines of similar projects built in the past. For example,
Or more modular, yes.
yes, you need to first, the first step is to identify a similar project in the past. What will happen? This will actually add to the overall policy wisdom in the project, that since this project was built in country A, for example, and that country A followed these processes, and they were confronted with such challenges, they will, the project that they constructed would be the best example as per the reference class forecasting. Now, there are so many examples all over the world. I mean, if you look into the project, a project is itself a manifestation how it was carried out. There are many ring roads, for example, around the world. But just starting constructing a ring road, if some other country has a ring road, it is nonsensical. Sorry for using this word. I mean, it is nonsensical. What you are saying is that since country A has a ring road, country B should also have a big ring road. They have their different economic, social, environmental, political, and other parameters and dynamics which are different from this case. So I would say that there are so many countries in the world which are effectively taking up the matters to micro level processes now. Uh, they are empowering their public, they are empowering the stakeholder, and not only that, now they are making use of artificial intelligence also, although AI has got its own drawbacks also. But I mean, what happens is, if you just uh, assign these kind of basic kind of assignments to the IT tools, simply asking them, if we build this project, will it bring economic growth? It's a simple question you ask, and you will see lots of things in front of you. I mean, now the era of manual processes is over. We are living in a IT-led government, IT-led world, and we have to understand that we must have robust planning, robust processes, robust mechanisms. Otherwise, bringing economic growth, making development from roading infrastructure or otherwise other big mega projects, that's a far cry.
That's very fair, Doc. So we're just going to just one more question. So we talked a lot about infrastructure development from scratch. Build a road, people will come, economic growth will happen, blah, blah, blah. What about maintenance? Maintenance is often something that we don't really bother about, or maintenance effectively takes on a whole new meaning when it just becomes new, fresh infrastructure development again. That basically means whatever you did earlier was a complete waste. How do you think about maintenance in the context of roads?
Mr.
And what
Amar,
needs to be done to move towards a more optimal model for that?
yes, this kind of the toll taxes that we collect from the roads actually. I mean, we have most of the roads that are built in developing countries, they are built on built, operate, transfer, mod, bought. Now, what happens? Poor countries, developing countries, they are taking heavy loans from the developed nations. And developed nations, they have extra funds available with them, and they actually really want to invest somewhere. What is happening? We basically put direct taxes on the people in the form of toll taxes. If you are in a car, you pay taxes, and the argument is that the lease or the kind of contract for this taxation has gone to company A, company B, and for next 20 years, 30 years, it was a loan money, and now we have to pay them back through obviously public money. Out of those toll taxes, they do maintenance of roads also. But I think that this is the worst model in the sense that you are borrowing money, spending some money on the maintenance, and then you are paying them back the loan that you have taken. This way, I mean, the situation becomes even more pathetic. I mean, there is no economic growth, there is no development, there is no industry around. You are just sitting in the car, and most of the vehicles, if you look at that, single occupancy vehicles, SOVs. Well, but what is the purpose? I mean, these are the roads for the rich. Even if you maintain, you are maintaining it for the rich. What does the common person has to do with that? So my argument is that there has to be holistic planning, overall planning, where you look into the requirements of industry, requirement of your products, the movement, the transportation, the or uh, overall implication on the trade. I mean, if you even the basic formula of GDP, if you look at that, you can simply segregate different components that are coming in terms of goods and services in the GDP. So I think in the absence of uh, uh, these kind of necessary parameters that are necessary to bring economic growth or development, and you are advancing roading infrastructure projects, I don't see, even if you maintain the roads to the best possible level, I don't think they are going to contribute meaningfully towards the economy of the country.
Perfect. I mean, apps makes absolute sense. This was wonderful, Dr. Babar. Thank you very much for your time. It's a very intelligent conversation, very clear way forward of what needs to be done. I mean, it's not an easy task. But having the right mindset in place, having the right framework in place, always helps in just pushing things forward. Really appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Amar. Thank you very much, Mr. Hassan. Thank you very much, both of you, for taking me.
Thank, thank you, sir. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone, for watching yet another episode of Dawn All Things Money. Until next time, goodbye.